Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie McGrath, editor of Forbes Women. Jasmine Roth is an interior designer, a builder, the founder of Built Custom Homes. She is also on HGTV. You have seen her rescue DIY disasters on Help, I Wrecked My Home. I don't own my home, but if I did, I think I would be one of her subjects. Jasmine, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my gosh. I always tell people, I'm like, you don't want to be on my show. No offense, but like, you don't want to be on my show.
I don't want to, but I am prone to making lots of mistakes, let's just say. And I wasn't going to start with this question, but talking about being on your show, how do you find these DIY disasters? Because I just watched one where there were holes in the wall and this poor couple just kept taking on projects and they didn't have time to finish them, which I can relate to that too. But where are you finding these stories?
I think it's more common than we all think, right? I mean, we've all done it. We've all taken on more than we bitten off more than we could chew, taken on a project that's way bigger than we thought it was going to be. The budget gets out of control, the timeline gets out of control, real life hits. These are obviously extreme examples on my show, but at the same time, I think there's a little bit. We all see ourselves in these folks that we find. But yeah, people apply to be on the show, and a lot of people apply to be on the show. It's actually not very hard to find families that fit the bill. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to wreck your house as well, right? So a lot of times it is a DIY gone wrong, but there's also folks who are completely, they have analysis paralysis, right? They can't do anything because they don't know what the next step should be or how much it's going to cost, and the what ifs start piling up and they just stop. Or we have folks who maybe haven't maintained their home well, and that's a whole nother part of it. If you're a homeowner and you don't take care of your house, that can really ruin what might be your biggest investment. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to find yourself, unfortunately, on my show. And what we do as well is help people figure out how to not find themselves in that position again.
We'll get into more crazy stories and construction stories, but I want to zoom out and step back because you got your undergraduate degree in business, in entrepreneurship specifically, which I love. We love entrepreneurs here at Forbes, but you didn't immediately start in construction and building. How did you find yourself in this sector?
Yeah, I always say it was a happy accident. I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur from day one. I wanted to own my own company. I wanted to um, kind of have that opportunity to put my mark on the world, if you will. And so entrepreneurship seemed like the right major for me in undergrad. That said, when I graduated, I went into business consulting. And that was a great springboard into, okay, what am I going to do? When am I going to have my big break to become an entrepreneur? But at least in the meantime, I was learning so much. I was learning how to operate in corporate America, how to um, interact with clients and coworkers and managers, how to be a manager, but also how to be managed, and also, just all of the nuances that go into being successful in business. And so that was really a great background and experience for me when I did have the opportunity to kind of dip my toe into the construction industry, which my husband and I, we were both in corporate America. We're working full time. We bought a piece of land and we tried to do a project on the side. But as that was happening, we realized that we were in way over our heads. I probably would have found myself on my show had it existed then. Um, but one thing led to another, and we were about 2 years into the project, and it just wasn't happening at the rate that we needed it to. It was a huge investment, outstanding for us. And so we actually decided that I was going to go and manage the project. I had had my real estate license in college, so it wasn't that far fetched. I also loved being there. And so I was like, I'll go. I'm just going to, give my notice at work. I can always go back. And I never went back. I never went back to work, if you will. And it really does feel that way. I mean, even though I work really long hours and, owning a business is a whole nother just beast of, it takes over your entire life, but in the best way, because if it's something you love, it doesn't feel like you're working. But anyway, so that was how I got into construction, and I knew nothing. I walked onto that job site, and I admittedly was like, hey, I'm just here to learn. I'm here to help. I'm here to facilitate. And what a great what a great learning experience as someone who, eventually would become a manager in that space, because that's still what I do. I still show up and say, I'm just here to learn. I'm just here to help you do your job as best you can. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it. It was an accident, but it really worked out. And but I do feel like that those initial years that I spent in corporate America really set me up for success in an industry that is otherwise not really operating that way.
I think constant learning is always the key for anyone who wants to change industries, as long as you're open to asking questions and receiving the answers. I hear that from a lot of folks who have a shift. And I always hate to ask the women question, but as the Forbes women editor, I do see the statistics of the gender breakdown in the construction industry and manufacturing and building. What are some of the challenges that you've had to navigate as a woman in construction and building? And what would you advise other women who want to follow a similar career path?
You definitely can't ignore the statistics, but I will say that I've never really, I don't want to say I've never paid attention, but I've never let that slow me down, right? And I think no matter what industry you're going into, if you feel and if you can prove yourself, if you feel like you belong there, you belong there. Um, it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of consistency. And consistency is something that I think gets kind of lost in the shuffle, where people are like, well, I've been working hard. Why is this not, why am I not seeing my efforts rewarded? And with that, it's usually that you're right around the corner from it. You just have to continue doing what you're doing, being consistent. And, when it came to this industry, I didn't really notice that I was the only female, even though I knew it and I noticed it and it came up every single day and it was part of my day-to-day kind of interaction. It didn't slow me down because I knew that I could prove myself, and I knew that I didn't need anybody's approval. I didn't need to be the same as everybody else that I was working with. I just needed to do my thing, and that would be enough. And so while construction is not a industry that is, nobody said to me in school, do you want to build houses? I wish they had said that, because I probably would have said yes. Do you want to be an architect? Do you want to be an engineer? Do you want to be in the supply chain? There's a whole, world out there of commercial and residential building going on. Do you want to be a part of it? And as a woman, nobody ever brought it up as even an option. And I wish they had. And I hope that, through my experience of not just working in this industry, but working in this industry in a very public way, I can bring light to the fact that there are many girls and women out there who would be wonderful in the construction industry. And I hope that they find their way there. And I hope that we can pave new paths for folks to join this industry in an easier manner, right? And so that they don't feel like they're so outnumbered, and so that we can just be part of the construction industry. Why not? I know my daughter, right? She's 4.5. She watches our show. She'll tell you, she's the first to tell you, I'm on mom's show. I'm like, okay, that's great. And she is. She's like, we build houses. But in her mind, we do build houses, and women build houses, and women drive heavy machinery, and they have warehouses, and they wear a tool belt. And that's her reality, and that's all she'll ever know. And to me, as a working mom, like, that's so cool, right? Like, that's something that you can't take away from her, and that will never be changed. And so if that's her reality, it can also be a lot of other people's reality.
I love that you talk about using your platform. You do have a very public platform, but I want to make sure we get clear on how you went from point A to point B. So you found your company, and I think I heard somewhere that you got the email from HGTV and you thought it was a spam email. Can you talk to us about how you entered the wild world of real estate on television?
I was just doing my thing. And with that, I love magazines. I love Pinterest. I love Instagram. I love all of these places where you can see people being really creative, right? And I've always been kind of a consumer of all of these beautiful images and inspiration. And, if somebody's doing a project and they share their process, I love that. And I always wanted to be not just a consumer, but a contributor. So I started posting. On Instagram. It was a while ago, so I don't even think you could put videos on Instagram yet, but I started posting on YouTube. Hey guys, it's Jasmine. This is what I'm working on today. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but stick with me and I'll let you know tomorrow. And so I was just putting information out there because I thought it might be helpful. And so at some point, somebody from a production company that was working with HGTV saw those videos, and I had a project I just finished that said hashtag beach build. And so they had found me through a hashtag. I had about 1,500 followers on Instagram. I mean, I was not by any means like an influencer, but yeah, I got an email that said, "Hey, we've seen your stuff online and we're really interested in talking to you about an HGTV show." And I mean, I was a second away from hitting delete, and I was like, is this real? Like, is this real?" And I remember calling my mother-in-law, and I was like, "I got this email. Do you think it's real?" And she was like, I don't know." She's like, "Do you think it's real?" And I was like, "I don't know." I was like, "I guess I'll call them. It can't hurt." Good thing I called them. But yeah, so it was definitely not something that I was intentionally searching for in the way that I was saying, I want a TV show. But in the big scheme of things, I want to contribute. I want to be part of this creative, really this great community of people who work together and are building. And I want to be part of that. And so in the big scheme of things, it was my goal. But I didn't know that this was how I was going to get there.
That's so interesting. And of course, on your shows, you are executing your vision. And I think something that's so interesting is you started out, we were just saying, as a learner. So how did you develop your vision as an interior designer and a builder? Is it, as you said, kind of pulling from different sources of inspiration, or did you sit down and study? How did you come up with the Jasmine Roth visual identity?
I think that, anybody that's in this industry just inherently does have a strong point of view. So I have always had a strong point of view, whether it's in business, whether it's in my personal life. And as I stepped into building, I started to develop what was my own personal style. And then taking that style and using it for my clients on their behalf, and using what their personal style is, but kind of using my own point of view on top of that. That's the funnest part of my job, right? I get to be so creative, and it gives me this great outlet for all of my ideas. So at the end of the day, I'm just a very curious person, and my husband will tell you, like, my ideas outweigh my opportunities within our own home. I can only do so much on my own house. So thank goodness I have this outlet where I want to make, I want to take a huge wall and I want to paint this mural on it. It's going to be a word search. And like, maybe I can do that in my own house, but if I can't, at least I file it away for the next project. But yeah, I think having a strong point of view and having the confidence to trust yourself that, like, your point of view is unique and it's worth it, and it's going to be something that people gravitate towards. And luckily I've had that platform and created that platform to share what it is that I'm trying to put out in the world. And it's all part of this creative community, right? I'm surrounded by so many people that inspire me, that I'm able to kind of pull from. Oh, they did this, but what if I did that? But if I did it more like this? And, kind of constantly have that going. But yeah, no, it's definitely a creative, that part of this business is very creative. The rest of it is all it's analytical, it's, budgets, it's timelines, and it's all of that.
I'm glad you mentioned budgets, because I was actually looking at a report from May that indicated that homeowners still are doing home renovation projects, but they're often doing smaller projects and they're doing less. But they find themselves spending more even on these smaller projects because inflation is so high. What are you hearing from your clients and the people that you interact with your show in terms of price constraints and what they're concerned about when it comes to these budgets?
It's a challenge right now. We are in a market that encourages home renovation, where there's, a lot of us who are homeowners, first or second time homeowners. And you see HGTV, you see all of these folks online, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're knocking down walls and putting up new cabinets and all this. But at the end of the day, it's really expensive. Materials are expensive, labor is expensive, and it's inflation, it's supply chain issues. It's also a lack of we don't have the supply as far as skilled workers go. So we don't have as many skilled workers as we did, say, 10, 15, even 20 years ago. So to find someone who is really good at building cabinets or laying tile or all of these different trades that I work with on a day-to-day basis is really hard. And so homeowners are finding themselves in this scenario where real estate is as expensive as it's been. And so you're forced to buy a home that probably needs some work. Yet on the flip side of that, you can't really afford to do the work. And so that's why I think people do find themselves in these DIY disasters. But also, just trying to save up and figure out a way to do these renovations, and sometimes do them on a lesser budget. So yeah, it's a challenge. I work through every single day. We're just trying to figure out, okay, what is your budget? How are we going to spend that budget? How are we going to increase the value of your home, but also not, overbuild for your neighborhood? And there's a lot that goes into it. There really is. It's a tough market right now.
Obviously, cost-saving advice differs from house to house, neighborhood to neighborhood, as you just said. But are there one or two tips that you would offer to the Forbes audience if they're considering a renovation and they want to cut back on the cost? Are there one or two things they can do?
Yeah, I'd say across the board, and this is always my advice, but it's still good advice. Paint. Paint is a great way to update a space. You get a lot of bang for your buck. You don't have to paint. You can hire a painter or you can do it yourself. But a fresh coat of paint really does make such a difference. And it changes how we feel about our spaces. It changes how, just literally it makes it smell fresh and new. So if you can do nothing else, I recommend paint.
Now, in terms of your business, so not just the HGTV show, but Built Custom Homes, how are you finding clients in this environment? I mean, you mentioned housing prices are just, it's such an overheated market. Is it the show? Is it that people are still buying houses and still need your help? What's the inflow like?
Yeah, I think, there's still a high demand as far as people who have either been saving or have figured out a way to maybe refinance their house to fund a renovation that they know will then add value to their home. So in the long run, if that's their biggest investment, they will have that value kind of banked in their home. But yeah, no, we're still very, very lucky to be in high demand. I offer virtual consulting, which is a wonderful way to interact with people all over the world, not just this country. And it's so interesting to see, what everybody is struggling with. It's not always home construction, right? Some people need advice on storage solutions. They want, maybe somebody is pregnant like I am and they want their nursery finished, but they just can't get to it, And so being able to offer advice and use, my experience to interact with people all over the world has been an awesome opportunity. And then I do take clients on through my show right now. We're actually currently casting in Park City and Salt Lake City, Utah. And so that's exciting. And so people are applying to be on the show. And that's an amazing way for me to be able to connect with folks that have either wrecked their house or in the process of figuring out what they're going to do next with their homes.
You mentioned that you're pregnant. Congratulations. And as
Thank
we
you.
think about expanding houses and expanding families, you and I were talking before we started recording about how emotional a home is. So I'm wondering, how do you as the builder and designer interact with clients that have a strong vision? And how do you expectation set and deliver what they want while also staying true to your point of view as a builder and designer?
Yeah, I think, for many of us, our homes become almost like a member of our family, right? They feel like just an extension of our family because for many of us, it's our biggest investment, but also it's a place where you can be yourself. And it's a place where you can let your personality shine. And it's a place where, so many of us feel safe. And that's the goal, right? You want to feel safe and happy in your home. And I think, for my clients, sometimes just that idea is what they're struggling with. They're not necessarily struggling with the nuts and bolts, or maybe they are, but they're also struggling with the concept of how do I make my home feel like it's mine? How do I make it feel like it's my family, like it's our space? And so helping my clients, it just really fill their home with things that make them happy. So when you walk through the door, there's something right there that makes you smile. Or there's something right there that reminds you of a good time that you've had. Just filling our homes with personality and those unique touches. That's something that I think I really can help my clients with in a really special way, as a mom, as a wife, as a sister, as an entrepreneur, as a friend, and as someone that maybe they've hired for me to work with them. I take that role really seriously, and so being able to go in there and understand what's important to them, what makes them happy, what makes them, at the end of the day, feel relaxed or calm, or however it is that they're trying to feel in their house. If I can hit that nail on the head, then I know I've done a good job.
I just got a 2-minute warning from the booth, and I want to end with a few fun questions. We're more than halfway through 2024, but what is a design or home building trend that we can expect to see in the next 6 months that you see already kind of brewing?
Oh yeah. Okay. So let's talk colors real quick. Okay. So grayish green is the color that's coming in big time for the end of the year. It's not gray, it's not green, it's grayish green. So you'll see a lot of that. You'll see it in bathrooms, you'll see it in cabinets, you'll see it wall color, you'll see it all over, maybe tile as well. The other thing I will say is that brown is back. It's not that gray is out, but brown is back in a big way. And so we're going to be seeing a lot of trends that we saw in the early 2000s are kind of coming back in. They're repeating themselves, but in a very different way. So that doesn't mean if your house is still not renovated from the early 2000s to just leave it. That's not the answer. But there are a lot of the same materials that we're seeing repeating themselves. So yeah, look for that as well.
If you could wave a magic wand and get rid of a current design trend, what would you excise from all of our memories?
This is always a challenge. This is a tough one. I'm really into hidden TVs right now. So if I could wave a magic wand, I would try to figure out a way to hide every TV in every project. And that's kind of that's what I'm working on, at least in my own home right now, because I hate having this like big square on the wall. I love TV. Don't get me wrong. I have a TV show, but I like when it's part of the design and it feels really intentional. So that's what I've been working on.
And finally, if we were to speak 1 year from now, and I hope we do, what do you want to be able to tell me about either your life, your business, your show, or all of the above? What do you hope to have accomplished within the next year?
I'm in the middle of a lot of life transitions. I'm moving my family to Utah. I'm moving my company to Utah. I'm moving my show to Utah. I'm having a baby in the next couple of months. So I just hope I'm still around in a year. No, I'm just kidding. I just hope I can make it through all of that. No, I think, having this platform and this opportunity is amazing. And I would encourage folks to set goals, set really big goals, but leave yourself open to the idea that you might not reach that goal the way you thought you were going to. And being flexible is so important. So I hope we can talk about, where I was and say, well, how did you get here? How did you end up here a year later? And I don't know what that'll look like, but I'm definitely open to all of the different ideas and opportunities. I think that's how, we can grow and progress in our careers and just through life. So yeah, I just hope that we can have another conversation where we can talk about how everything went down.
Jasmine, I hope for that as well. But in the meantime, good luck. Have a safe delivery, and I hope to talk to you on the other side of everything. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.